Welcome to the April update on the Willoughby New Haven line. I don't have a ton to show you. Last month was kind of busy and things are kind of hectic here, so I haven't worked on any major projects, but I did have a few things to show you. The first being the new mock-up of the end of the line here. If you remember from the last update, this structure here came out more on this section here, and it was kind of like an L-shaped, and I tried to just simplify it and see how that works. I think it's going to work. I used more of the ITLA templates and constructed something that I think will work. Not 100% sure that I'm sold on this design. I don't know if it's going to. You can kind of see there's a corner here that's kind of vague. I don't know if I want it to come. It's a weird angle. I've got this edge here, which creates a weird triangular shape, and then getting this side to line up with the other building on the left side is a bit odd. It looks okay at this angle, but if you look closely, it's not a right angle at the template, or mock-up I should say, of this building or structure to this one. They don't form a right angle in here. So I have some work to do to figure that out. I don't know if it's okay. If it's not, I always, in my teaching and in my artwork, no matter what medium or media it is, it's kind of one of the major ideas is that if you're going to do something, make it obvious that you're doing it. So if it's going to be straight, make it straight, make it 90 degrees. Don't make it 88 degrees. Don't make it 80 degrees, because it's just going to look like you tried to do 90 and it was off. If it's going to be not 90 degrees, then obviously make it obviously not 90 degrees. So 120 or 70 or something where it looks obvious. You just don't want to be on the fence with anything. And this is, it looks sloppy the way it comes across right now. So I guess what it is the tracks, the track behind Willoughby frozen meat and these two tracks here are not at the same angle, so lining buildings up is not gonna, it's gonna be a weird thing. So I've got some figuring out to do on that. I also don't know if I have this piece here. I want to kind of solidify or like make this slightly actually look better than just cardboard, but this is the cardboard that I used to separate those two tracks. I don't know if it looks better completely open or separated. I'm not sure. The track that the gondolas are on they come in at the end of the line. You can't see it with this locomotive here, but all three tracks are parallel once they hit the backdrop board. So it comes in and curves under the building, which I'm fine with. It kind of makes this inside corner a little odd here. So I'm not sure if I should keep this as a right angle to the front of it or angle that. That doesn't bother me if that's slightly off, because that's an interior wall. And I know there's probably examples where buildings aren't exactly at 90 and it looks close. But it's just, I don't have a lot of that. I know some, especially in model railroading, I know there's a lot of layouts and things or modules where there's tons of intricate building overlap and modifications and additions and kind of things where you've got multiple different angles and things, and it looks, again, when you have more of that kind of going on, I think overall it disguises one kind of thing that's off. So again, that's kind of another philosophy. If you're going to do something, do it more than once. And so having everything kind of more or less at right angles on my buildings around the layout, if there's one where it's slightly off, it looks weird. So the inside I'm not so worried about on the opening here. And again, these are just templates that I downloaded and printed and pasted onto chipboard. So that's fine. When I get the actual pieces that I can modify and things like that. But I'm not sure how it's, is it going to attach to the Willoughby Meat building, or is it going to be separate? Right now it's kind of separate. Again, I could adjust and make actual space in between the two. I could move the Willoughby Meat building. There's a lot of different things. I'm still playing with it, long story short. So, but that's what I've got so far. I kind of like this structure a little bit better than the L shape at this point. It's been up for a few weeks. It gives me some room in the front here. I'm going to move the camera. It gives me some room in the front here to do something else interesting there. I'm not 100% sure. A part of me, when I designed this end of the layout, I had thought about dropping this down and putting a water feature in here. So that still may happen. And this would give me more room, whereas if I had the structure coming out to here or something, like that, it gives me, less room to play with. It does kind of disguise the trains going into the end of the layout, so I do kind of like that idea. I may do something where I have a separate structure that's along here and, it's not attached to this. So I'm not 100% sold on anything yet. I'm also toying with the idea of doing something. There's a module I've been looking at recently. I forget the source. I'm going to guess Instagram, where I look at most of my stuff, where they had basically a similar layout ending here that I do on the end of the module. And they had like a street that came up and then elevated and then went across. So I could do something like that where I have a road that goes behind there. That gets into more intricate kind of backdrop things that you have to kind of figure out. And so this is kind of simple, where the buildings kind of block the tracks and the buildings block the backdrop. That's kind of an easy out. And that's what I've been doing so far. So again, lots of options. Not sold on anything 100% yet, but I kind of like the way this looks. I did a much better job on the mock-up. I'm going to move in a little bit closer here. I did a much better job on the mock-up here. I'm going to move the camera slightly so you can see, and then you can see the refrigerators right there. So this one looks a lot better. And then obviously once I get a model, I might do some framework around the opening and things to make it look a lot better than as it is, to make it look actually reinforced and so forth. Not 100% sold on the idea of having it completely open the way it is. If I move in a little closer, I put a piece of brown, I didn't have any black readily available, but brown paper to kind of make it so you can't see the backdrop, the bright blue behind it. But if I put this little piece back in, kind of separates, makes it look a little bit more, structurally sound, so to speak. Makes it look like this is almost like a loading area, and then the main line goes through the building on the other side that you wouldn't see. So I think I've rambled on long enough about this, but that's what I worked on earlier this month, or I guess at the end of last month. So that's what I've got. So let's go to the next section. So I've been working on some more puff trees. You can see them in the far distant background against the backdrop. I'll go in closer so you can see. I think it's working so far. I can show you kind of my quick method again. They're nothing special, but I think from a distance they look pretty decent. I need to obviously do some transition from the edge of them to the hillside. A part of me would like to possibly have the whole hillside all foliage trees, but that's going to take a lot more trees. But I did get a good chunk more of them done. For a couple of weeks I would come down after dinner and do 3 to 5 of them a night, and it worked out. So I got a good chunk of them done. I'm kind of running out of supplies, so I got to invest in some more fiber fill. I like the black, it's worked so far. Forget how, I think I just used Mod Podge, let them dry, and that worked to get the shapes that I liked. And there's a good variety. I probably need to go harvest some more hydrangea, being that it's the end of the winter. There's probably a bunch of stuff I can pick off that wasn't probably ready in the fall because the foliage hadn't gone through the weathering of the winter time. And so there were a lot of dead hydrangea blooms that still had all their petals on them. So I can probably go harvest a bunch more, get some more pine tree looking foliage in there that's made from hydrangea, so it mixes it up a bit so it doesn't look all puffy puff tree backdrop. So let me go in a little closer and show you what I've got back there, but from a distance it looks okay. It's not 100, it's kind of weird looking at it on the video because everything gets compressed, and there's a lot going on. It's like 8 feet between the front of the camera and the puff trees, so things get kind of odd looking, but so far I'm pleased with them, and it finishes the backdrop off. And now I'm really looking at it after I have the puff trees on there, that the backdrop is probably way too short. As people had suggested before, if you remember, I had actually raised it up. It was a lot lower, which looking at it now, it's kind of like, why did I ever think that was going to be a good idea? Because now I'm second guessing it as it is. But it is much more structurally sound back there, so I've got much more construction options that I can do, and it would be easy for me to slide something in between the trees and the backdrop that I've got existing. So yeah, so there's some room to improve that. And if I pan up a little bit, you can see my painting in the background that's been sitting there for probably close to 5 years that I have not touched. And then my storage stuff behind there. So I don't want to go all the way up to the ceiling. You can see on the right side, you can see my painting coming through, and the backdrop kind of ends. So I could kind of adjust that corner a little bit, or design that corner a little bit better, but the backdrop should probably come up higher. But one thing at a time. So let's get in a little closer. So this is looking from the left corner, and they look pretty good. I painted the sticks, the skewers. They look pretty decent. I could probably honestly add some more things to make them look a little bit more branch-like in the foreground, and that might help things. But again, I'm going to work on kind of transitioning them and getting them to a point where you don't really see under them with other excess overgrowth and foliage. And the lower you get, the less likely you're going to see underneath the trees, because you'll be looking kind of down on them a little bit more as you get lower. So that will, just the perspective of it will get a little bit easier to kind of see or not see or get disguised. So I still have some room over here to do more, so I'm going to continue, but I don't have a lot. Like I said, I got to get some more material. So let me show you how I kind of do these. Okay, so this is basically my setup when I'm making trees. I have my puffs here that are just the black fiberfill scrunched up, dipped into Mod Podge, my scenic cement mixture, and then let them dry, dip them in, scrunch them out so they dry a little quicker. Let them dry, and then put the skewers in them from the bottom, whichever I feel is going to make it look the best. And then I use spray mount. I've been using the 77 spray. I found some old stuff that worked for the last batch of trees that I did, and use a generous application of the spray mount stuff. And then I use this thing and hold the puff tree over it, and then just sprinkle as I rotate the puff tree around, sprinkle my foliage. I've got a whole bunch of different mixtures, different varieties, sprinkle it over, and then it collects everything in here, and then I can just take that mixture and dump it back into whichever canister I sprinkle it out of. And then I usually hit it with some matte medium spray or matte spray, and then they're pretty much good to go. And then I just punch the holes into the scenery, pop them in, glue them, and they're pretty good. So that's my basic method. Nothing special. If you've ever made puff trees, that's pretty much a standard method. There's other ways to do it, but pretty standard. So I think at the end of my last episode I mentioned, or update, I mentioned doing something with pencil shavings. I have not done anything with that yet from a pencil sharpener. So I still have that to tackle, but I have a few other little things to show you. So that's going to do it for the puff tree talk, and we'll get into the next section. So I have this water tower. It's, I think, an old Atlas water tower from when I was a kid, and I've painted it within the last bunch of years since I started to get back into the hobby, from when it when it was dug out of storage when I was in high school. So it's been repainted within the last bunch of years from probably, I don't remember how it was painted when I was a kid. I lost the water part of it, but I used some odds and ends to kind of enhance it a little bit. It was missing, it's still not fully glued down, so I can still paint it and things. I added a little top piece that was missing, which is a some kind of venting thing that I had from some kit. So that kind of finishes that off, because it was just a little, like a little pole kind of thing that was sticking up for the top that was supposed to be there. And then I had some scrap boxcar kit pieces, and I put the ladder in there, which is kind of a hot mess, but once I paint it and get it weathered around it, it might look a little bit better. And then I used, as the top is coming off, I used, I think, brake lever parts or something from the back of a boxcar. I had two of them, so I used those for the sides. There were two strips of something. This is totally not prototypical. I have to look at more prototypes of water towers, but I kind of felt like it needed something in the front there. The ladder should probably go all the way down to the ground, but I kind of figured maybe for safety it would be better if it didn't go all the way down and you could access it with a portable ladder. I don't really know. I'm not being prototypical with this little project at all. And then there were two little like number boards that I used to kind of fill in the holes here where there was the actual ladder that came down from the kit, which I don't have anymore, or maybe I do, but it's way too big. It's not to scale. So I think this boxcar ladder is more to scale. And so it needs some more painting and weathering, and I don't know if I'm 100% sold on its location here. I was trying to figure out a good place on the layout for it. This kind of makes sense, as it would be on a siding, and then industry kind of built up around it over the years or decades. And then I also moved, I initially had a brick structure in this area, and I moved that to the other section I'll show you in a second. And if you noticed it earlier, it might have been in the shot from my mock-up. And then I moved the wood structure that was on that section to here. And I think it kind of looks a little bit better. It's just a little scratch-built structure that I made, nothing fancy. Let me show you the other side of it. And then I'll show you the brick structure that I kind of swapped it with. I kind of like it for now. Nothing's glued down. I can move stuff around, but that's where the water tower I think is going to live for right now. But I was messing around with that. So that's the front of the little structure. It's got like kind of like double doors that could open up. Thought it was kind of like a good storage shed or something for equipment and things for one or both of these industries. So I had initially had the brick structure that I'm going to show you right now. So behind the tank, you can see the brick structure. Again, those two buildings were just swapped, or little structures. This brick structure came with, I forget which one. It came with either the one in the back, which is my Forstmann Clocks Industry, or this one. I want to say it came with the Forstmann Clocks Industry that I have. The Willoughby Meat one, I think that was just on its own. I forget the names of the kits. They're both Walder's kits. I think I want to say the one in the back is like the waterfront building or something, and then this one is the Sugarland industry. I forget. I don't think it came with the Sugarland. I think it came with the other one. I could be completely wrong on that. I think I am wrong on that because I think the brick is matches more of the Sugarland, so I think it came with that one. Yeah, it came with the Sugarland one. Now that I remember, so I think architecturally the two kind of go together and kind of complete the scene a little bit better than the wooden structure. It kind of breaks up the fact that I know I'm moving the camera around a lot, this portion here. But it kind of it matched a little bit too much some of those kit bashed and scratch built structures there. I kind of liked it at first because it kind of fit, but it almost fit too much. So it looked a little too matchy. So that's where they're going to live for now. Again, I might change things down the road, but that's what I've got. So just one or two more things to show you, and that's going to wrap it up for this update. Okay, so the last little bit to show you is I've been working on some more static grass clumps. I have not had a ton of success with these. I may be using too much glue. I'm not sure. I don't know. I've seen people do it and they come out better. I'm not 100% sure why mine I'm never satisfied with. I know it takes patience because you have to do multiple layers. So I think one of the things is I just don't have a good method for collecting the static grass after I do a layer. So you can see a lot of static grass kind of lays flat when I'm moving it around to clean the excess off. And I think what's happening, honestly, is I'm using my vacuum with a sock over it to pick up the excess, and then I didn't fully tape. This is kind of answering my own issue. I didn't fully tape the wax paper down, so I would accidentally suck up some. You can see here where I kind of sucked up the wax paper. So I think if this was taped all the way around, maybe, and then vacuumed up straight up, I think that would prevent a lot of the falling over of the static grass, because what's happening is when I'm trying to move it, you can see this, I hit the vacuum here with on the wax paper, so there's a lot of excess glue here, and then the static grass kind of sticks to that. So I think I just need to be a little neater with it. Some of it works. I mean, I get it to stand up. It's just I get a lot of excess stuff that hits the sides of the little glue dots and then lays flat and looks kind of cheap. I could clean them up before I stick them down, but the other problem I think I'm having is I'm using too much glue, and so when I put them down on the layout, they're just too big of an area, and you can kind of see like the glue skin, if you will, the dried glue on the layout. If the surface isn't completely flat, the bottom of it's flat, because obviously it's glued on a flat pan. So the bottom of the glue is completely flat. So if it's too big and isn't getting glued on a flat surface, it doesn't lay flat and gets kind of wonky on the layout. So that's one thing I've noticed. So what I've actually found a better way to do these, and they look a little bit more to scale, is I do it by hand. I pinch static grass, and I've got it kind of a technique where I kind of pull it from a pinched, my two fingers are pinching some, and then I pull the excess off with my other fingers on my other hand, and then use tweezers to hold the rest of it, and then I take that little clump, dip it into glue, and then put it right on the layout. So let me see if I can show you some examples of that, plus the glue skin issues that I've been having. So I don't know if you can see the one in the foreground here. You can see kind of like the end of it. The glue skin is kind of sticking up. The surface isn't flat. The glue bit is too big, and so it doesn't lay flat on the ground, if you can kind of see underneath there. And then there was excess glue on the one right by the post of the fence that was kind of clumpy. It's not terrible, but it's not to my liking. I added this bumper here, and I did one of my pinched ones in there, and I think it looks a lot better. It's more to scale. I'm pretty sure that's one that I pinched by hand, and it's tinier. It looks more natural. it's actually not that much. I find it actually quicker to do it by hand, to pinch it and do it that way. I've got a few more, I think, that I did by hand in this area here, and I think they look pretty good. So it's kind of a therapeutic little activity. I kind of like the idea of doing them on the pan and getting a bunch of them done that I can just kind of peel off like a, assembly line kind of thing. But I'm just not 100% sold on the way they've been coming out. This little one on the corner of the structure here is one of my pan ones that I did, and it lays flat, it looks okay, but the grass isn't sticking up as much as I would like. It's not really showing up from the angle, and the colors of the grass are blending in. But you can only see like really one strand there that's sticking up nicely against the building. So that's not that great. And then I think I have a few more maybe that I did by hand over here. I think I might have pulled a few off that were done by the pan method over there, but then these I did by hand, I think, around those metal beams. So I kind of like doing it by hand. So I'm gonna approach that project using that method, I think, in the future. I did some around here, around the crossing post. They're not showing up that well. They're not really in focus. It's a little better. They're not showing up that well. I might have done those by the manual pinch method as well. I did these a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I forget which ones I did by hand and which ones I did on the pan. Let me show you a few other sections. So this section here, these were all pan ones, and I added some foliage on top as well, so kind of a mixture of things. And this was concrete under there, so it's kind of, you can still see some of the concrete probably. I should probably add some more turf on top. It doesn't really look like there's cracks there that the grass would be growing out of. That's kind of what I was going for, kind of did a quick job of it. I had all of these clumps that I did on the pan, and I was looking for places to put them, so I kind of wanted to fill in that area as overgrowth. So I put them in there, and when you clump several of them together, it kind of hides the size and scale and clump the glue skin underneath there. And then it was a flat surface, so it kind of works a little bit better in this area. So they work in some areas, they don't work in other areas. They don't work on gravel, on the ballast rather, on the tracks, I've noticed this time and in previous times that I've done it, because the bottom is flat, because they're done on the pan and the glue settles and smooths out on the bottom. You've got a flat surface you've got to work with. Probably using way too much glue and making too big of dots, but I'm just not, again, it's such a pain to kind of layer it, pick it up, and do multiple applications. It's just kind of a pain. So I think I'm just going to stick with doing it by hand, honestly, because it just looks better and is quicker. So the last little section is to show you, I did add some static grass on the actual layout just to kind of overgrow this area. I think it came out pretty decent. Probably have some touch-ups to do and other little things to add, but it looks a little bit better than it did before. The static grass came out really good with my homemade applicator, and I'm pretty pleased with this. So this is going to wrap it up for this update. Kind of rambled on a lot about, not a whole lot this update. I don't want to go over time on this, but yeah, so hopefully in the next month or two I'll have some newer projects that I'll be working on. Been still running out trains a lot, so have a good April. Be safe and be good to one another, and we'll see you next month. Take care.